I don't know, what do you guys want to talk about? Any ideas at all? Here's some of the things that have kind of come up this week that maybe I should give you some background. I got a friend of mine named Jonathan Sprinkles, who's out there in the speaker circuit, says that people won't listen to you if they don't know you. So let me give you just kind of a little bit of my backstory on this first of all. I saw some heads nod when I said Jonathan Sprinkles. You guys know Jonathan? Oh, you want to hear the story? Well, let me say, do you know Jonathan Sprinkles? You look really familiar. At Craig's event? Yeah, awesome. So Jonathan Sprinkles is the most handsome black man in America, self-proclaimed. So when I saw heads nodding, I thought, well, maybe they do know Jonathan Sprinkles. So here's just kind of my backstory a little bit. As Bob said, I spent 8 years on Special Forces A teams, all right? And those, as he had mentioned, that's the Green Berets. It's not the Navy SEALs, all right? We ate Navy SEALs for breakfast. It was an amazing time in my life. And I think one of the reasons why veterans have this absolute affinity, I mean, as soon as the hand went up, I love this guy, all right? Because veterans have this affinity for the rest of their lives. It's when men and women were at their best. At their very best. And it's not because they were the most fit or they did a great job. It's because they were willing to sacrifice it all for somebody else. Right? Does that sound familiar to you? Absolutely. And that's what life is about, folks. I've really learned over the years, before I get there, and this is why this event is awesome. It is not a networking event. Here, Bob is absolutely right. People were telling me before I ever met Bob, you got to meet Bob because he's got this networking thing. And I would get the heebie-jeebies. I'm not meeting another network guy. And as it turns out, he's wrongly classified by a couple people. And so I put him off, and I was probably right here in Orange County when I told him I was on the road. I mean, that's a great thing about Facebook. You can hide behind Facebook, I'm being transparent, Bob. No, I was. But here's the deal. All of a sudden, I too had 3 or 4 people saying, you got to meet this guy. And all of a sudden, unbeknownst to either one of us, we're at the same event. And then we're at an event a week later. And then we're at an event last week together. We're meant to connect here. And when I really started to learn what this thing is about, it's about helping each other along through life. And that's what I loved about the military, because when you go put the military uniform on, whether you've done it or not, what do? When you enlist into the military, you do it. You go into the service. You go into the service. The great thing about vets is that they continue to serve. And that's what I love about entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs who have enduring success are those entrepreneurs that serve, because it's not just about them. All right, so how do I know this? Well, I had the honor over the last few years of interviewing, sitting down and having dinner with, intentionally, by the way, about 150 of the country's and world's top CEOs, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs. Richard Branson, Dan Cathy, Donald Trump. Alden Mills was one of my favorites. We've become very good friends. Alden Mills is a former Navy SEAL, invented the perfect push-up. Some of you guys know that, the thing. Started out as something else, and then he made course correction along the way. Invented the perfect push-up, then turned it into perfect fitness. 4 years, I think it was 4 years ago, his organization was the #1 fastest growing privately held consumer products company in the US. #1 Inc. 500 fastest growing company. So I went out and asked them, what the heck are you doing that's making you guys have all the sustainable success? And one is that they serve other people. Oftentimes they forget about the bottom line, and they serve other people. And sometimes that's people that are in their organization, sometimes it's people outside their organization, but the ones who felt the most passion about what they do and got their team members most passionate about what they were doing were those that were serving the community that had nothing to do with their business. So what we do in our organization today is about, so I've got a hotel company, I've got an advisory company, a company called Broughton Advisory, where we teach and train entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial mindset. Not just entrepreneurial startups, But to organizations like the Pentagon, we have an ongoing contract with the Pentagon to train them how to have an entrepreneurial mindset within that crazy organization. Because they're like everybody else. They're going through budget cuts, trying to do more with less, and they understand that they can't, that old command and control structure of leadership doesn't work anymore. All right, Turner Broadcasting is one of our clients, big behemoth of an organization. They're trying to figure out, how do I get an entrepreneurial mindset into all these different 32 or 36 different networks they've got? You know, some of them do very well, like Cartoon Network. Sports, what was the sports one? Whatever the sports one is, very entrepreneurial. But then when you've got organizations like CNN that's been around forever, very personality driven, you know? And so they're trying to figure out, how do we do it differently? Entrepreneurial startups need the same thing. What I learned is it's all about serving other people. And another thing is, they don't hire on experience. How many of us have gone out and we would try to bring on a partner or bring on somebody to our team and we make a decision off of a resume? You've done that, right? Anybody ever hired somebody in their life? Or how often have you been on a team where someone said, hey, we got this new team member coming in and they're great. Here's what their resume looks like. And then they get there and it's an absolute nightmare of a disaster, right? So here's what the best organizations do, I've learned, is they hire on these three things. Motivation first, integrity, and capacity. Experience is way down, like here, like number 8, usually. Because motivation without integrity is dangerous, right? People who are highly motivated without integrity, that's how we got into this economic debacle that we're in right now, right? And most entrepreneurs that I know, they're trying to grow an empire. Most of them that I know. Now, because those are the ones I hang out with. There are a whole lot of entrepreneurs that are building what I call this lifestyle businesses, where they want to make $50,000 a year, and that's fine, right? But most of them are trying to grow their business. And so when I say by capacity, it means they're trying to bring team members on who can grow with them. Because I believe as a leader, there's nothing that's more sad than bringing someone on who's got the motivation, they've got the integrity, right? They're on the right bus, as Jim Collins says. You ever hear that? Jim Collins says, get people, the right people on the bus. That's number one. Number two is get them on the right seat on the bus, right? But the bus is moving too fast and they fall off. That's the sad part, right? That they've got the motivation, they've got the integrity, but they just can't keep up with your growth. So that's the three things I've learned after interviewing all these folks. That's really important. But I want to make an observation before I go on. Look how many women are in this room right now. Right? It's funny how many events I go to and women are the minority there. There is a shift happening, folks, in the economy right now. There's a shift happening. We have leadership voids in every segment of society. Every segment. Politics, religion, business, nonprofits, we have a leadership gap. And we're moving from what has been called an experiential economy into what I'm calling a relationship economy. Women are uniquely built to fill those roles. I promise you, folks, men, we're not going to be relegated to the salt mines. We're not. But if we don't get on board and accept that women are going to be playing a major role in this new economy, in this new world, we are going to be left in the dirt. And I see Zeb is just like really pissed right now. But it's a relationship economy. And that's why this organization is so primed to do so well, right? There's not a whole lot of taking. The reason I mentioned I hate networking events is because here's how I see networking events. And here's why I avoid them. I walk in and I'm flooded by people who want to put their business card in my hand and they're immediately scanning the room. Who's next? Who's my next victim? I have 50 business cards I have to give away. And then take, what can you do for me? This relationship economy is not going to work that way. It's about serving other people. If you take nothing else away tonight, just serve other people. Just serve other people. Just serve. That's it. Because failure is going to come your way. It will. There's going to be times you have no idea what to do, right? You're going to be so flippin' overwhelmed. How many entrepreneurs, again, are in here? How many people have had failures so far? And you're still going at it, right? Failure is a way of life in the entrepreneurial world, okay? And any part of society, you're going to fail. It's how do you respond to it? All right, so if you go to the Honda Motor Company plant in Japan, there's a big mural that's there. You know Honda Motors, right? They don't just make the Honda Civic, right? They make some of the best aircraft engines in the world, right? They make some of the best motorcycle racing engines in the world. There's a mural there that says that success is 99% failure. It's how do you respond to it? Because tenacity is, I think it's the key to sustainable success. I am not the smartest guy. I barely graduated high school. All right, literally. Barely graduated high school. I was just a knucklehead. I remember I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I went and told the high school counselor I wanted to be a veterinarian, and she basically just patted me on the head and said, "You need to lower your standards," is really what she said. You know, you need to go do something else. And so that's how I pictured myself. Well, as it turns out, when I went, all right, so I moved out of my parents' house. I'm going to get a little bit authentic here. I moved out of my parents' house because I had a crappy life my senior year in high school. So my twin brother and I and a friend went and got an apartment while we were still seniors. And my twin brother and I were martial artists, and we raised $10,000, my brother and I, to go out and start a chain of martial arts studios. So had no idea what the heck we were doing, but how hard could it be, right? Right? And so we had a pretty good amount of success there, and this was 1982, or at this point, in 1982, I should say. I started hearing rumors that the Army was going to put up the first Taekwondo team for the Olympics. They were going to sponsor the first Taekwondo team in the Olympics. Any Olympians in here, or Olympic athletes? You know how this works to get a new sport into the Olympics? They do a demonstration sport 1 year before they actually take it to be an official sport 4 years later. So 86, I guess, was going to be the first Olympic Taekwondo thing. So I went down to the Army recruiter's office, and I did my hardcore sales pitch, just telling this guy why I needed to be on the Army Taekwondo team, all right? And after about 5 minutes of me just laying it all on the line with him, he finally puts his hand up and says, "Wait a second, you got to be in the Army to be on the Army Taekwondo team?" I just told you I'm not a smart man, right? It never registered for me that I've got to be in the Army. I just thought they sponsored the thing. I didn't. Hey, you've all made mistakes in your life. Back off, man. And so he got me to take the ASVAB, all right? ASVAB is called the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's basically an IQ and aptitude test. So I took this thing, and as it turns out, I scored really well on this thing, like off the charts, like in the top 1/10 of 1 percentile in the country. So I had this IQ of north of 130, as it turns out. And so the guy calls me, the recruiter, and says, "Hey, you need to come in, let's talk about this thing." But he said, "You can do whatever you want in the Army. You can do anything, you pick the job, and you can do whatever you want. Of course, you got to go through the training, you got to pass the test and all that thing." He said, "You can't be a commissioned officer. You can get into college, and we can make you an officer if you go to college." And I said, "I don't want to do college. I mean, I barely graduated high school. Why do I want to do that?" So he said, "You can do anything you want. You can even go into special forces." And the way he said, "You can even go into special forces," to me was like a challenge, right? Behind his desk was this poster of just a black background, a picture of a Green Beret, kind of a spotlight on it, and it says more about you than you'd ever say about yourself. And I didn't know what the Green Berets were, all right? So the captain of the recruiting station was walking by, and he said, hey, Captain, this guy's going to try out for Special Forces. And the captain, what? He come running over, and then I said, all right, I've got to do this because this is getting everybody's attention. I have no idea what it is. So then he started, yeah, there's some people about my age in here. So I said, well, what are the Green Berets? And he says, well, do you remember the movie The Green Berets with John Wayne? I hadn't seen it, so I said no. And so he said, well, what about Billy Jack? Do you know Billy Jack? Then he had my attention, all right? So the people who are like about my age, you remember Billy Jack? That guy was cool, right? Well, then Rambo was about to come out, all right? And it wasn't out yet, but so he's telling me about Rambo. I said, all right, sign me up, that's what I want. I want to do that. So he said there was one caveat. So of course, with a recruiter, who are the best salespeople in the world, there's always a caveat. If you don't make it, you go up for what they call worldwide assignment, okay? So if I don't make it and they need a truck driver in Alaska, I'm going to be a truck driver in Alaska. Or if they need a cook in Louisiana or Germany, that's what I was going to do. So to me, that was my incentive plan, to stay out of there. I wanted to make it into Special Forces. So I went into Special Forces and went through the qualification course, did really well. Well, first I went to basic training, then my advanced individual training, then I went to jump school. How many people have jumped out of airplanes, by the way? Wow. Awesome. Since you weren't in the military, you kind of went. How many people skydive on a regular basis now? So did you guys kind of do like the one-day training? You go in, you go through it?
Well, I'm certified. I've done 55 times, but I don't do it right now.
Awesome. Well, when I said right now, I mean, do you do it on a regular? All right. So for most of you, you probably went, you either did a tandem jump, you got like a 4-hour training, and no? How did it work for you?
All-day training.
Well, all right, and all-day training, right? Well, but my point is, in the Army, it took 3 weeks to learn how to do it, all right? We're not the Air Force, we're the smart people, you know, we're the Army, all right? So it took 3 weeks to learn how to basically do the same thing. No, but there was a lot more training because you got to learn how to maneuver in the air because you're jumping out bunches of people at the same time. It's a little bit different than that. But anyway, so I did really well in Special Forces, and for some reason, I got assigned to what's called the GO team at 10th Special Forces Group, and they called the Originals. It was the first Special Forces group that was ever formed. And so I was on what's called the GO team, or the green light team. There just happened to be a vacancy. I interviewed, and I made it on the most active team of the most elite military unit in the world. And it blew my mind, okay? And so we were going all over the place, traveling all over the world, doing crazy stuff. And so I spent about 8.5 years in Special Forces doing that stuff. But as I was traveling around the world, I remember being in the Middle East, and the things were just starting to pop into my brain, like, what are you doing with your life? You know? I saw these knuckleheads running these countries, and I went to, we're in Central America and doing some stuff there, and I thought, dang, if these people can run a country, you guys can finish the sentence, right? How hard can it be? Right? Sound a little bit like an entrepreneur? So at the time, I had some friends who had moved out to California. I grew up in New York. And back then, the school systems, the college school system was a great value, right? I mean, not so much anymore. But so I thought, I'm going to get out, go to school, and get into politics somehow. Either, you know, I didn't know that I wanted to be an elected politician or whether I just wanted to be in, you know, policy development or what. But my first job out of the military was as a night auditor at a no-tell motel in San Francisco. How many of you guys are from San Francisco? Anybody? Do you know the Tenderloin in San Francisco? All right, so it was in the Tenderloin. Okay, this is for you, those who don't know, that's the ghetto. This is where the pimps and the prostitutes hang out, right? The sad part is, I was sharing with somebody earlier tonight, it's also the most densely populated area of the city, all right? And it's right in the shadow of the federal building. There are more children there per square block than anywhere else in the city. It's kind of sad in many ways. But anyway, so my job was the night auditor. Any hotel people in here? You work in a hotel before? You know what a night auditor does, right? So night auditor, you go in at 11 or midnight and you work through the night, right? And you kind of close out the books. So I had just come out of Special Forces. I was kind of bigger and, you know, more manly like Zeb right now. My job was to be the intimidating guy. You know, my job was to keep the peace amongst the drug dealers and the pimps and the prostitutes, right? And those were my coworkers. I'm not kidding. I went in, so I worked 11 to 7. The guy who worked the 3 to 11 shift one night, I came in and he had OD'd on heroin behind the front desk. And I had to revive this guy, okay? All bubbly coming out of his mouth and stuff. I mean, it was nasty. The guy who worked the 7 to 3 shift, name was Gino, and I'm not kidding you. He was on parole for being a pimp, all right? His wife was the executive housekeeper and was part of his, what do you call them? Team. Team. Harem, I think I heard too. It was a freak show. It was a freak show at this place. But it was a job. I had no money, and I wanted to go to school, and I figured, dang. Well, the reason believe me, when they saw my resume, former Special Forces operator, you know, this guy's perfect. Get him in. I was making $5 an hour, though. It was miserable. So I was there for a few months. I'd work 11 to 7. I'd get off in the morning at 7. I'd go to school during the day. I'd sleep in the afternoon, work out, and go do it all over again, okay? So I was there for a few months when an investment group decided to come in and they wanted to buy this place, all right, real estate company, and they wanted to reposition this place. They didn't know what they wanted it to be yet, all right? So the idea was they'd come in, kick everybody out, renovate it, and convert it into something else. Well, it ended up becoming called the Phoenix Hotel. Some of you may have heard of it. It's considered the rock and roll hotel up in San Francisco. Like if you go there today, there's probably 2 or 3 tour buses right now. Back then when I was working there, I'm one of the owners there. There's bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and, does that mean anything to anybody? Okay. I don't know, maybe you guys are Justin Bieber fans. I mean, maybe that's who's there now. I don't know. Oh my God, he just got shot darts. Wow. So, sorry, I'm gonna take this off. And so I really got interested in real estate because what I realized, particularly in the hotel industry, is that this had all kinds of things that kind of fed my needs. It had real estate, it had finance, team building, customer service, brand development, all kinds of things that I found really fascinating. And so in that process, I'd worked on a couple of different political campaigns and realized I don't fit into any political party. I pissed off the Republicans, I pissed off the Democrats. You know, I wanted to get in people's faces. I didn't have thick enough skin. I mean, it's just, it didn't suit me. So I quickly became a partner in this hotel company, and in about a 14-year period, we picked up 18 hotels in San Francisco, and I was the number 2 guy there. Barely graduated high school, didn't have a college degree, you know, but what I knew how to do was build teams. So it got to be the late 90s, and I got very restless, because what I started realizing really quickly is that, by the way, I have no idea how long I've been talking. So you're gonna have to give me a time hack at some point that tells me how much time I have. Or we can just go all night. This could be the best 2.5 hours of your life right now. Where was I? 2.5 hours, I guess we're gonna go on for, right? We got plenty of time, right? We've got what? 25. Oh, good. So I knew how to build teams. That's what I realized. I was really good at building teams. So it got to the point where in the late 90s, I was starting to get restless because what I'd recognize is that I am a primary leader and I was stuck in a secondary leadership role. I was the number 2 guy at this company. I didn't want to be number 2. You know, I wanted to be the person calling the shots. So I decided I was going to leave, my wife and I at the time. My wife was working a bunch of hours. I was working a bunch of hours. We were trying to have kids. It wasn't working. And so we decided we're going to pack up. You know, we were making gobs of money, a sick amount of money, to be honest with you. And we were just going to leave, not just leave, but come up with an exit strategy. I was going to keep my partnership in the company. I was going to be on the board of directors, which I did. We're going to move to Southern California. She's from Orange County, Huntington Beach. And we're going to start something. Didn't really know what. So as Bob had said, it got to be, 2001, and you could see the real estate market really starting to take a tumble, and could kind of see the writing on the wall. I thought this might be a time to pick up some properties. Had no idea how bad it was going to get, So we started a new hotel company where I was going to be the guy kind of in charge. And I went from getting six-figure capital call checks during 2001. Do you remember what happened in 2001? Anybody been around long enough to remember that? Dot-com bomb, national recession, was turned into a global recession, right? SARS, do you remember that? The avian flu, which really impacted the travel industry. If anybody's been in the hotel, travel agent, airline business, decimated it for a while. And then 9/11 hit, right? So at that time, I had owned 14 hotels, or I was owner in 14 of the hotels that we had in San Francisco still. So the value of those hotels, not overnight, but within that year, dropped 45%. Just dropped. And I was still young and stupid, and we made this, my business partner and I said, you know what, let's not lay anybody off. We can weather the storm on this. Because if you look at the several recessions leading up to this, since the Great Depression, there were a few months long, you know, and we've got a short attention span in the US, and so we thought we'll get through this really quickly. Well, it turned out that was the worst recession we'd had since World War II. And so I went from getting six-figure capital call checks to writing distribution checks to writing six-figure capital call checks. Okay, you know what a capital call check is? You know what a distribution check is? When you have a business and you're making profit and you got extra cash flow, you write a distribution to the owners. When you get those on, you get six figures, those on a quarterly basis, that's a good thing, right? Now, when you start writing capital call checks, which means you're an owner, we don't have enough money to cover payroll or the mortgage or insurance. Guess what, owner? You get to do a capital call check or cut one. And so I was doing those on a monthly basis. Do the math. I had $83 in the bank at one point. And my wife was pregnant. It was a tough time. All right? And so I thought one day, what the heck are you doing? I looked at the company that I was building, and I realized I was all by myself. I somehow got seduced by this lone wolf mentality that a lot of entrepreneurs take on in their life. I can do it myself. Whether it's pride, or I don't know what it is for some of us, we've all got our own reason, but we think that we can do it ourselves. But let me just tell you this, from experience and doing it over and over again in my life, like I'm not a smart man, I make mistakes. This whole lone wolf mentality is just a myth. It makes for great movies, it makes for great romance novels. We can't do anything alone. We were built to be part of a community, which is why this is awesome. You must surround yourself with people who are bolder and brighter than you are. You have to. The fatal flaw of most entrepreneurs is that they want to be the smartest person in the room. They want to be the smartest person on the team. You can't be. You must surround yourself with people who are bolder and brighter than you are. Because the stuff is going to hit the fan one day, and you're going to be paralyzed, even if it's only on the inside and you like you got it all together, and you better have your teammates prepared to carry that mantle when it's just too heavy for you to do it. You better be ready to get a bloody lip from time to time, or you're not ready to be an entrepreneur. So surround yourself with people who are bolder and brighter than you are. So it was a wake-up call for me. I was all by myself. And so I started reflecting back, what the heck have you done? So I started looking at all the kind of highlights in my life, right, when I had really good stretches of success. And it was when I had great people around me. So I started looking at the Special Forces model. How is it that you can have 12 type A personalities with 120 minimum IQ and still get stuff done? Do you ever get 12 CEOs, entrepreneurs in a room? What do you usually get? Pandemonium, trouble, right? Arguments, right? And so what I realized is, though, it has nothing to do that they're type A personalities or that they have genius level IQs or whatever it is. The key, I think, to building an elite team is getting people on that team who have complementary skill sets don't have a bunch of mini-me's. That's, I think, a problem that a lot of us get. We try to hire people just like us. You can't do that. You must have complementary skill sets. But even more importantly, you got to share a common vision. You've got to get people who subscribe to the path that you're on, who understand, hey, we're going over there, and it is going to be scary sometimes, but it's going to be really exciting. Follow me. Let's go. That's what your team needs to look like. And when you get people to subscribe to this common vision, crazy things happen. Sparks fly, excitement happens, and it doesn't matter if you're walking across broken glass throughout this nutty economy, they're going to go. They're going to move forward, and we're going to get it done. So that's what I found really exciting. And so for the last several years, I've built my new hotel company and a bunch of other companies, a publishing company and other crazy stuff, around this special ops system to entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of what we speak on, or I speak on a lot now, and that's why the Pentagon's brought us in, and Turner Broadcasting and a lot of other organizations, is to do that kind of stuff. And it's a blast to do it. But this thing about failure is what just gets a lot of people stuck in business. And so why are we so afraid of failure? That. I mean, how many people have kids? All right. I'll tell you what happened in my house, okay? We bring a report card home, and I can't use me as an example, but my older brother would get, a bunch of A's and a B and maybe get a C, and all of a sudden it was, why'd you get a C? C's are unacceptable, right? At a young age, we're programmed that making mistakes is not a good thing, right? And so our entire life, we're taught that. But in actuality, if we look at what the people at the Honda Motor Plant say, right, is that success is 99% failure. We ought to get out there and try a whole bunch of stuff. We all know the thing about Edison, right? How many times did he fail right before he invented the light bulb? We know about Abraham Lincoln, right? Breakdowns and failures before he became what's considered one of the best presidents the U.S. has ever had. But still there's that fear thing that just gets a hold of us. Let me take a sidetrack here for a second. Almost 2 years ago, my business partner Phil Dyer and I, in my advisory company, we got all of our coaching clients together. It's kind of a similar situation like this. We were doing hot seat sessions where people come up and they give their biggest challenge, opportunity, or idea in front of the group, and then we kind of coach them through as a group through that challenge, opportunity, or idea. And so one of our coaching clients is a guy named Larry Yatch. If you want to Google him later, Y-A-T-C-H, Larry Yatch. Larry is a former Navy SEAL, and this guy is the real deal. He is the one who planned and executed the first mission into Iraq to secure the oil platforms. So if you Google this, try to learn a little bit about this. So they planned the entire mission, went to do their briefing to Special Operations Command, and they said, okay, so what are the casualty rates? What's the casualty rate going to be? Sir, we think we're going to come back with 50% of the team. 50% of the guys are going to die on this mission. Okay, good, move out. That was acceptable. All right, imagine being the team leader knowing that 50% of your team is not coming back. All right? So, by the way, they lost 0. All right? Under Larry's leadership, they lost 0 guys on this mission. All right? Secured the oil platforms, then went on to Tikrit. Anybody who knows what's happened in Tikrit, bloody, bloody battles in Tikrit. So Larry gets up in front of a group and says, okay, it's my turn, but before I kind of tell you my biggest challenge, opportunity, idea, I want to share with you the scariest, most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And everybody knew this guy was a Navy SEAL, right? And so everybody's sitting there like you guys are. Oh, this is going to be a good story. So people lean forward. Scariest thing this Navy SEAL's ever done in his life. And you know what he said? The scariest, most difficult thing I've ever done in my life It's to start and run my own business. Why is it that a Navy SEAL who has put it all on the line, if he says the scariest, most difficult thing I've ever done is to start and run my own business, why do we think that we can do it by ourselves? Why are we afraid to admit that it's scary or that I'm going to have failings? I don't know. But I think we've got to step outside of ourselves sometimes and just admit it. Because boy, when you admit things, when you say that you've done something wrong, it doesn't just take the power out of it. But we keep it in our heads, oh, I'm not supposed to be afraid. I'm not supposed to be frightened. I'm not supposed to make mistakes. But when you just get it out there, everybody comes running around you and hugs you. Oh, yeah, I know, we've been there too. And again, I'm going to say it again. That's why this is great. You don't get this stuff at networking events. Do people ever get authentic at networking events? Right? They have a facade. This relationship economy that we're moving into is all about authenticity and transparency. The sooner we get authentic and transparent, the sooner the bond is going to be built with somebody. And that's why this internet thing, by the way, it's not a fad, Zeb, like you were saying earlier. All right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's why these things like Facebook and Twitter and all these other things are kind of huge, because people want to know and be known. We are longing so much to have a connection with somebody that we'll hide behind a computer screen to make that connection. So when we get really authentic, we get really transparent, people are going to rush to our sides. They're going to help us along when we stumble. They're going to buy products from us. Those people who are faking it, who are surfacey, they are going to, yesterday's news, folks. It might not happen today or next month or even next year, but ultimately those are the businesses that are going to fail. So the sooner that we can own this transparent, authentic self that we are and admit that we've made mistakes and have had failings, the sooner we're going to reach success. That's my prediction. Like it or not. So that's kind of it. That's my story, I think. I'm probably up against time, aren't I? Pretty close. So if anybody's got a question or two, I'd be glad to kind of stuff out here. I don't know if I can answer it, but I can always deflect to Bob, who's smarter than I am. So.
What's the number one thing you learned in special forces that you apply in business?
Yeah.
Other than you said build a great team already.
Well, that's it. That really is the number one thing. But the other thing is never quit. Tenacity is so important. I mean, I am not the smartest person, but I don't care what it is. You give me enough time and I will beat anybody. Because I will marshal the resources, I will put together the right team, and I'll just keep moving forward. One dusty, bloody boot in front of the other, I will keep moving forward. I may have to shift my course 5 to 10 degrees each time, but I'm going to keep moving forward. I was asked this the other day, what's better, an A team with a B plan or a B plan with yes. That was it. An A team with a B plan or a B team with an A plan? I believe it's an A team with a B plan. Because the truth of the matter is this, no plan survives contact with the enemy. No plan survives contact with the enemy. For entrepreneurs, the enemy are market conditions. It's new competitors coming on the line. All right? An A team can take a B plan and make it awesome. There's a book that you must read. It's called Getting to Plan B. And what it talks about is that no business ever fully executes and gets successful on their first plan. If they did, well, FedEx as we know it, PayPal as we know it, GoDaddy as we go. I mean, there are tons of businesses that we know and use today that aren't the original business plan. They're not. They've had to make course corrections along the way. But with an A team, you can take things, you can just rock the world. If you've got a B team, or let's say a C team, they can't flip and execute their way out of a paper bag. Right? Another question? Troy.
How did you really cast vision to the people around you to say, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there? You know,
Yeah, it's a great.
Really do it.
I do it every day, or every day that I have an opportunity to do it, I should say. I'm blessed at this point. I probably spend, don't tell anybody, I probably spend 7 to 10 hours a week on my hotel company now. Because I've got a great team around me. So, but at our Tuesday executive committee meetings, I'm dreaming with them all the time. Fantasizing is what half of them call it, you know, about how things could be. And so we've built a culture where people are always dreaming about how things could be. And we built a culture where people aren't afraid to make mistakes anymore. If someone in our organization makes the same mistake over and over again, they're either coached up or they're coached out. Because that's one thing we just can't tolerate, is the same mistake over and over again. But if somebody makes a mistake, I don't care. It's a learning opportunity from us. Because when you have a corporate environment where people are afraid to make mistakes, they're reserved. They pull the reins in on everything. And if you want to build a fiercely loyal team, you let them make a mistake, and then you celebrate them. You don't think that would build loyalty? When they expect the axe is going to fall on them, but instead, they're the ones who are leading the next project, they're never going anywhere. Because the best team members, the best 8 team members have made mistakes. For anybody who's read anything about SEAL Team 6 going to get Osama bin Laden, there are tons of mistakes made along the way. Tons. Like I said, every mission I've been on, we've made mistakes over and over again. But here's why veteran business owners, well, let me start with this. Maybe you didn't know this. Veterans start businesses at a rate 4 times greater than the general population. Get your brain around that for a minute. Since World War II, veterans have started businesses at a rate 4 times greater than the general population. And they've enjoyed twice the success rate, according to Korn Ferry, 1.7 times more likely to succeed than their non-veteran counterparts. So why is that? I think it's 2 reasons. One is, what's your name? Caesar. CJ? Caesar. You may remember this. After every mission, you come back and you do what's called an AAR, an after-action review. All right? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? How are we going to do better the next time? And there's no blame placed. None. It's just the facts. And the other thing is, we never left the team room without contingency plans. We had 5-point contingency plans for everything we did. For statisticians, we think of these are if-then scenarios. If this happens, I'm going to do that. If this happens, I'm going to do that. How many people in business do a contingency plan about anything? Right? And so in business, if you don't have a contingency plan, what happens? You stop, you might reflect for a while, and then figure out what happened. In the meantime, the competitors are passing you by. So if you have contingency plans, you can move out really quickly, really smartly, get things done. But without a vision, all of that stuff is worthless. And so how do I do it? I talk about it every day. It's got to be part of the culture. It just has to be. All right, but here, tactically, how do I do it? Emails, videos to our entire team. I go to holiday parties. I go to birthday parties. And I'm constantly doing this kind of stuff. Always, always, always. Because in our industry, particularly on the hotel side, 2/3 of our team are people you never see. They clean toilets for a living. You know, they keep the boilers running. All right, they're mopping floors. They're the maintenance guys, make sure the elevator's going up and down safely. But think about this. How'd you like to clean a toilet, make beds 8 hours a day for 25 years? You better have somebody to inspire you to keep doing it. So what we do when we go and we take on a new hotel, the first thing we do is those are the people I celebrate. Don't even pay attention to the managers. You know, some of these managers are making 6 figures. They don't need a whole lot of cheerleading. They need some, but it's the people that are living hand to mouth, sending money to Mexico and Guatemala and all over the world to feed their families, their extended families. And so what we try to do is get them to understand that every job has honor and dignity in it. I flipped burgers for years. at McDonald's, literally. I think there's honor in work. I don't care what it is. And when someone is told there is honor in what you do, particularly in the hotel industry, right? People are getting naked in our rooms, right? Some of us were conceived in hotels. We're making the food that goes into people's mouths. Wow, that delayed reaction on that one. Right? I mean, we're one of the few legal industries where people are totally exposed, besides hospitals, right, in the hospitality industry. So there's something very intimate about the industry that we're in. And so when I can get our room cleaners to understand that this is a very intimate industry, they start feeling good about themselves. When we have control over, people save for years to go on a vacation. They're coming to one of our places. And so we try to get people to understand that they're not just cleaning toilets. They're helping people have experiential times in their life, So that's how we do it. It's not an easy thing. There's not a one-time thing. I think the goal, or not the goal, the role of the leader of an organization, that's their number one role. How things can be. Here's not who we are today, but this is who we aspire to be. So, hi.
What is the name of your hotel chain?
Broughton Hotels. It's very unique.
B-R-O-T.
Broughton. Yeah, Broughton Hotels. They're independent boutique hotels. One more before Bob comes up and does the hook.
Because I know you used to, some other, being in another business, own a bunch of hotels.
Uh-huh.
What was your thought process of you to break away from that situation and, start your own?
My lifeblood was being sucked from me.
Okay.
It took a while to get there because all right, here's where I was getting seduced by family and friends and pride. I was the number 2 guy in the number 2 hotel company in the largest hotel market in the world, San Francisco. That hotel market is bigger, at the time, was bigger than the New York hotel market. It was higher performance and higher than Paris. I mean, it was the number 1 hotel market. So I was the number 2 guy in the number 2 company. I mean, and I never graduated high school. I mean, never graduated college, So it was kind of, I could just stay right here. But I realized I am not living authentically. I'm living in someone else's shadow, and I was getting depressed and angry and so it took me kind of some emotional turmoil. I got uncomfortable, I guess, in my own skin. That's what forced me to go.
Okay.
So, not a pretty answer, but that's what happened. All right, so that's it. Thank you for paying attention to me. I had no idea what we were going to say, so I hope that was helpful. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.